What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Early Edge Kickoff Show. My name is Sia Nejad, and I am the Counselor of Cash, and we have a huge slate to cover today, so we're going to get right to things. We've got an extra couple of guests that you're not expecting as well, so thanks for being in the chat. Thanks for being here on New Year's Eve. Pretty crazy. We have a full slate of games. Let's look at the recap screen real quick. This is not beautiful by any means. I hit my play. Listen, I'm 6-0 on the Early Edge and on SportsLine this week, 7-0 overall. But the rest of us, at least yesterday, or I should say Friday, not the best. Obviously, a lot of people were on Cowboys props. The Jahmyr Gibbs prop probably should have hit for Dave. Didn't end up coming in. EC missed the Ferguson prop, but that's okay. We're going to rebound. We've got so many picks. You don't have to bet all the picks, but we have so many picks for this Sunday slate, even a pick that I'm going to give at the end of the show that I put on SportsLine for the Sunday night game. But we got to get things started. So let's bring in the stars of the show. Some faces you'll recognize, but not usually on a 12 o'clock Sunday show. Mike McClure is here. Danny Brasco is here. And of course, Proppy and myself are here. Mike, thanks for joining us today. Danny, thanks for joining us. Danny, how you feeling about this slate?
I'm feeling real good. I see my man Big Cheesy in the chat. We've got an audience showdown in Saints Bucks. We'll talk about that game. Slate looks fantastic. I can't wait to get into it with you guys.
And Mike, pre-show, we were just talking about your DFS lineups, which you were finalizing. You were talking about Travis Kelce. You liked some props in that game. Proppy likes it as well. You looking forward to this slate today? Thanks for joining us.
Very much looking forward to the slate, Sia. I think there are some interesting plays out there, so I'm excited to break it down. Not sharing anything else on here, but I'm happy to break down every game with you guys and provide a little DFS angle across the board here.
Yeah, let's do that right now. Let's start with the Patriots and the Bills. And this is one of those games where we don't have as many plays as some of these other ones. And honestly, that's a good thing, right? Because if we had 3 or 4 plays for each game, this would be a 2-hour show. You'd be watching us at 1:45 Eastern Standard Time, wondering why the picks are off the board. Patriots at Bills. There's only one official play we have here. And I'm not going to go to everybody on every game. But Dave Richard has Ezekiel Elliott under 47.5 rushing yards. I actually do like this prop. If anything, I would be on, if I was going to think of overs in Ezekiel Elliott, I would probably go rushing and receiving, or just receiving, or maybe receptions. Proppy, let me kick it to you real quick here. Dave, you're on the prop show with him. Do you also like this Zeke under 47.5 rushing yards?
I do, for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, when we're talking about Ezekiel Elliott, he's been extremely inefficient, particularly as a rusher this season. This is not projected to be a matchup where we're going to see New England run the ball a lot either. I expect them to be trailing in this game. I think if we look at the variety of outcomes, it's going to be a game where Buffalo's in control and New England's forced to play catch-up. If I were to back Zeke in any capacity, as you mentioned, it would be in the short area passing game where he has thrived. He's excellent in pass protection. And without Ramondre Stevenson, he does barely come off the field, but he's been inefficient running the football. Buffalo's defense, while it's been a bit of a roller coaster for them this season, they've been a lot better recently since they've kind of gone more towards a conservative offense. So I think it's a tough matchup for Zeke, particularly on the ground. I'd like to fade him there as well.
Hey, Mike, quick question for you before we move on to Falcons at Bears, where we have 3 official picks, including one of mine. Josh Allen, it seems like it might be a pretty good matchup for him, even though this is like a 2-touchdown spread here. And I say that because it is difficult to rush the ball against the New England Patriots, and they're missing a lot of guys in the secondary. From a DFS standpoint, or maybe even just from a prop or just a general Josh Allen feeling standpoint, do you see potentially a big game coming from him?
I don't exactly, and the reason for that is I think they might create some short fields against this New England offense as well. Yeah. And James Cook will certainly be involved. So I think you need a lot of efficiency. You're going to need to run really hot in the red zone. If you wanted to build that scenario, whether it be in DFS or through player props, you'd be building for the scenario where Zappy and Zeke are playing really well and they're actually able to push, and it's a 1-score game throughout. That's when Josh Allen would take over with his legs, put the ball in his hands, put the game on his shoulders. That's where you get the upside. As far as that, though, it's Bills are nothing here for me. We started talking about this one in HQ early in the week at 11.5. The number I made was 14.6. We're settling right here at 14.5 now at this point. Nothing I could play in this game on the current number today.
Proppy, go ahead.
Be remiss if I didn't mention very quickly, this could be a squeaky wheel gets the grease narrative type game for Stephon Diggs. Diggs has really struggled over the second half of the season since Joe Brady took over as the offensive play caller for the Buffalo Bills. This is actually a sneaky good matchup for him against a New England secondary that you mentioned. Sia is banged up. They also tend to give up a lot of production to opposing number ones. They don't double team a lot, and they're giving a lot of production to first reads. So I think we're going to see Stephon Diggs get quite a bit of volume here.
Yeah, early as well. We know they like to establish Stephon Diggs early. All right, let's go to Falcons at the Bears. We got the Bears -2.5 here. This is one of my official plays. And Proppy, before we get to your official play, I do want to ask Danny about this because, Danny, I do feel like I'm on sort of the chalky play. I mean, the Bears have certainly been a trendy team to bet on. I've got a -2.5, so it's right under that key number, but I really like them in this circumstance. And it's partly because I think Atlanta's okay, but I think they're largely underwhelming. And I think this defense, ever since acquiring Montez Sweat, when you look at Taylor Heineke, he can be good, but against tough defenses, he can also be really turnover prone. That's part of the reason I like this, even though I'm not so sure that the Bears are going to move the ball swiftly against the Atlanta Falcons. Am I on the wrong side? As you're a contrarian bettor, I just wonder, are you on the Atlanta side? I know it's not an official play, but is that where you would lean?
I teased the Falcons up to +8.5, and that was the only thing I felt comfortable doing in a game like this. I do feel like it'll be a one-possession game. You might be on the right side, but I would also say that Desmond Ridder gives the Falcons less of a chance to win than Taylor Heineke does, just giving the ball away to teams in the red zone, fumbling at the 1-yard line. Heineke is by far, a better option for them. So it might be a sell high spot on the Bears, who, like you mentioned, their defense has been playing really well. I don't like laying them as favorites necessarily, but if I'm going to play this, I'm going to tease up and get the Falcons at a bigger number in this spot.
I like that. And Proppy, speaking of Taylor Heineke, you like a play with Taylor Heineke. And frankly, I don't know that it is contrary to my Bears -2.5 pick, because there is the potential, and I'm not saying this is why you have this pick, but there is the potential that there's a negative game script for the Atlanta Falcons. Maybe, maybe not. Either way, tell us about your Taylor Heineke prop.
Of course, and I wouldn't mind if the Atlanta Falcons were trailing in this game. I think it could benefit Taylor Heineke here, but I'm going over 199.5 passing yards for Heineke. I think this number is 15 to 20 yards too low for Heineke. He's been a lot better than Desmond Ridder at quarterback, just a more natural passer of the football. And I just like this spot for him against Chicago's defense. It's a pretty significant pass funnel as a result of having a very good run defense. I think we're going to see Atlanta air the ball out a bit. If they're playing from behind, they certainly will be. I also think this number was slightly suppressed because early in the week it was thought to be bad weather in Chicago. That has proven to be not the case. So no weather concerns here, no serious weather concerns here. Wind doesn't look to be an issue here. I think Heineke has a good shot to go for well over 200 passing yards today.
All right, Mike McClure, let me ask you, this is practically like a yes or no question here, because I just want to know, I know you don't bet a lot of sides. You don't have a side on this game, but you do bet sides, but I know you're also into totals as well. If you had to take a side here, Bears -2.5 or Falcons +2.5, where would you go if you had to?
Hilarious, Sia. This is the tightest game model to market of the entire week. I have the Bears -2.5, the total 38.9. Literally the tightest game. So if you asked me to bet a game, this would be the last game I would bet.
Nice. Danny, go ahead.
I believe the Falcons in every single game, I could be wrong on this, but I believe every single game they played, the spread has been 3 or less. One possession games are the Falcons' MO.
Very interesting. Japan 5, I would start the Bears defense over the Raiders defense in your fantasy championship. All right, Raiders at Colts. Speaking of the Raiders, Colts -4 at home. We've got a total of 42. Again, all odds powered by BetMGM. Danny, you've got an official play in this one. Talk to us about it.
I love me some Antonio Pierce's Raiders. I mean, man, this team has totally turned around, namely on the defensive side of the ball. All of a sudden, they're top 10 unit in defensive DVOA under Patrick Graham and Antonio Pierce. I like the way this team's playing. I don't think they should be catching 4 points. I took it at 3 in the hook. Now it's up to 4. I'll grab it all day. I'm going to sprinkle the money line too. More than anything, I don't believe in this Colts team. I know Gardner Minshew has looked good in a lot of spots, had these explosive plays. Pittman is back. I understand that people probably like them in this spot with the return of Michael Pittman. But I don't believe in them as favorites. This Gus Bradley zone defense coordinator for the Colts, Gus Bradley runs zone at the highest rate in the NFL. And I don't think it's going to work against Aiden O'Connell and Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams, guys that can rip that zone apart. Take a look at what that defense did against Taylor Heineke's Falcons. They put up 29. Jake Browning's Bengals dropped 34. I don't believe in this Colts defense. And I don't think that Gardner Minshew is going to continue to have the success. I feel like he's gotten quite lucky. He actually ranks really high in the league in turnover-worthy throws. Not all of them been turned over, though. So I think he's going to turn the ball over here in the spot. And Raiders being slept on as dogs. They don't deserve to be 4-point underdogs here. Give me the points all day with the Raiders.
I love it. By the way, you said that perfectly. EC has a pick here. He has Daniel Carlson. We got a field goal prop over 1.5 field goals at plus 100. That's from the prop show on Friday, which of course featured Propstarz as well. It also featured Dave Richard, who has Michael Pittman. This is a plus number, over 7.5 receptions. That is a big number at plus 122. You'd think that would be like plus 140 or plus 150, but that's how many balls Michael Pittman, when he's healthy, catches. So Dave Richard over 7.5 receptions at plus 122. I think we can move on to maybe a slightly more interesting game. I think the Rams are interesting just because they're so much better than any of us thought they would be. Really, any of us, I think. Rams minus 6.5. Going to New York. They're playing the Giants. Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starting quarterback there. Mike and I talked on the Fantasy Football Today DFS show about how Tyrod Taylor may be a DFS option because he's so low priced and you can do so many things with your DFS lineup if you put him in with, let's say, a receiver like Darius Slayton, for example. So I know in the DFS market, there's a lot going both sides of this ball with Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. Pretty exciting game. Emery has an official pick here with the Rams minus 6. I tend to agree with Emery here. Propstarz, any leans here in this game, whether it be a prop or whether just it be the spread or the total of 43.5 in this game?
No personal leans here. I think as far as props are concerned, nothing really sticks out or jumps out to me as far as any of the Rams props are concerned. Kyren Williams is in extremely elite territory. If we're looking at his rushing yards and his combination line here, larger than Christian McCaffrey, who is playing against your Commanders, Sia. So that should tell you all you need to know about how good Kyren Williams is. I would speculate that he probably has one of the highest percentages of players who are on championship rosters, be it week 17 here, and a lot of championships will be decided today. So if you have Kyren Williams on your team, you are in good shape. Congratulations. Well done.
Yeah, and Mike McClure, let me ask you this, because I think people who don't play DFS, they're probably wondering, wait, I don't understand why you're on Tyrod Taylor. There's so many good quarterbacks on this slate. Obviously, this comes down to price and ownership and things of that nature. But let me just ask you, because we talked on Fantasy Football Today DFS. By the way, our contest is still available. I tweeted it out about an hour ago. So if you want to get into our $5 DFS contest, just click the link on my page at Sia Nejad, and you'll be able to get into that contest. But is Tyrod still one of your favorite guys in DFS, Mike?
He is, yes. Definitely playing Tyrod Taylor in DFS. The price point is the reason. $4,600, very, very cheap. Too cheap. Should be at least $5,500 in this particular matchup. He has the ability to push. He's got a good offensive mind in Daboll. He's going to let him sling it around. But it's really the rushing upside. When you look at a guy that's likely going to rush for 20 to 25 yards total in this game, that's essentially half a touchdown in DFS scoring. So it's got a little bit of a floor baked in. You're also in a neutral or trailing game script the entire time. So I love Tyrod Taylor in DFS.
All right. I'm playing a lot of Tyrod Taylor too. I'm going up to the top and playing some Jalen Hurts as well on behalf of Proppy. I'm pairing him with A.J. Brown, but like both of those from the top and from the bottom. Danny, what you got?
I'm a huge Giants fan. That's my team. I firmly believe Tyrod Taylor is better than Daniel Jones.
Fair enough. I honestly, I don't think that's a stretch. I think there's a lot of these back. I mean, we'll get to Jared Stidham in a little bit. I'm not saying he's better than Russell Wilson. I kind of think he is right now. We'll get to that. I think he will move this offense better than Russell Wilson. I think Sean Payton he'll still be a game manager to some degree, but I think there's a lot of these backups that are going to play better than the starters. And I think maybe you just outlined one of them with Tyrod Taylor over Daniel Jones. All right, Danny, you've got another official pick. And it's in this Cardinals-Eagles game. The Eagles are favored by 13 at home. That line certainly makes sense. The total is 48. Listen, this line has really been wavering between like 11 and 13. I think clearly it's 13 at BetMGM. I think there are some spots where you could still catch it at 12, 12.5. But Danny, you've got the underdog here. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, line's all the way up to 13. So moving against me a little bit, get it at the most points you can. I gave it out at 11. I took it again at 12.5. And I think the line was wavering on news of Kyler Murray's illness. He's been sick all week. He missed a few days of practice, but he's going to play. He showed up in Philly today wearing a Sidney Crosby Pittsburgh Penguins jersey. There's chatter, is this a troll job? Does he want to come to the Steelers? A lot surrounding this game, actually, looking ahead to next season. But I don't think that the Eagles should be laying double digits to anyone right now. as a favorite of more than 7 points this season. They're 0-2-1 against the spread. And Kyler Murray is a road underdog for his career, 15-6-2 against the spread. He's 12-10 straight up. Do I think he's going to win this game with the Cardinals? No, probably not. But everyone's going to go bet this Eagles blowout spot. You know how Philly gets. I'll let Proppy tell you about how crazy those bettors are. They attack the betting market like crazy. So in a decent fade spot with the Eagles laying this many points, I'm willing to jump on the ugly dog and take the Cardinals plus 12.
Yeah, Proppy, your reaction here, because it is a pretty big number, and the Eagles haven't been very good for 3 to 4 weeks now. And, it's all relative, very good relative to what we think the Eagles should be. Do you have any sort of lean? Are you leaning with Danny Brasco here?
I don't have any strong conviction on the side or the total here. I understand definitely Danny's angle here. I completely get wanting to fade the Eagles at this number between double digits. Seems like a big ask for this team whose defense has really struggled, especially closing games in the second half. We've seen them really struggle from that standpoint. So yeah, I totally understand that. I do think this is a spot where the Eagles, though, particularly from a prop standpoint, are going to have a lot of success. This Cardinals defense is not only one of the worst defenses in the NFL, but they are equally bad against the run as they are against the pass. So this is a spot where the Eagles should really have their way with them. I do think Arizona's offense is going to have some success against Philly's defense, especially in the back end. I love Trey McBride. We see him with a massive total. He's going to be operating, even though he's a tight end, as essentially the wide receiver one for Arizona. And against this Eagles defense, over the middle of the field where they've really had trouble containing, I think Trey McBride is set up very nicely. But I really like Jalen Hurts. I really like A.J. Brown in this matchup. I think the Eagles are going to be very aggressive, especially early, and they're going to test the back end of that Cardinals defense that has been extremely vulnerable.
Hey, Mike, can I ask you something about your model prediction on this game?
Yep.
Does it have the total as pretty efficient at 48? Does it lean to the over or the under here?
Slight under lean, but I do not love it, will admit. And the reason for that is the Eagles certainly have a ton of upside if they are efficient. And it does lean in the direction of Danny. So I have this at 11.2 is the spread, 11.2, and 46.5 is where I make this. So lean under, lean the dog. Those two things are generally correlated. However, the Cardinals are a team that can definitely rack up yardage, at least in garbage time. So I'm not playing the total despite having a little bit of an edge through a number that's actually playable.
Yeah, perhaps teasing or some sort of same game parlay with an alternate spread with the Cardinals bumping that up even more, and then taking the under, bumping the total up beyond 54 or 55. Maybe that's a decent play as well. All right, where can you make bets like that? BetMGM, that's one place. BetMGM has all the action for every sports fan. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get a first bet offer up to $1,500. If your first bet loses, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets with bonus code EDGE1500. That's EDGE1500 over at BetMGM. All right, let's get to the next game. We got a couple official picks, one from Danny, one from Propstarz. It's the Saints at the Buccaneers. Big Cheesy, I see you in the chat. Bucks favored by 2.5. It's a 42.5 point total. Danny, I got to let you go first because you have a showdown dating back to Friday with Big Cheesy in this game. Talk to us about it.
That's right. Cheesy was ready to take the challenge against me, showdown me, and we're doing it, Cheesy. I like the Saints to come marching in here and get the upset win over the Buccaneers. I think they win this game outright. I'll take the points. Gave it out on SportsLine at +3. Reverse line movement, guys, is one of the most publicly bet sides. Is Baker and the Bucks. They're riding high on that 4-game win streak. They just destroyed the Jaguars, but I think perception is overrating them. The Jaguars were decimated with injury in that game. Trevor Lawrence might have been playing concussed for all we know. And I'm not going to overrate a win against a very odd Packers team whose defense has been pretty porous this year. So, yes, Baker, Godwin, Evans, they've been connecting like crazy. But I'm not willing to back them as favorites. Baker's 13-25-1 against the spread as a favorite for his career. And the public narrative, again, Bucks. So I'll take the Saints to go on the road here. When Derek Carr is an underdog, is a much better spot to back him than as a favorite. He's not profitable in that, but is 6 games over 500 against the spread as an underdog. So I think Olave, Rashid Shaheed, who's back and healthy, Alvin Kamara, these guys can move the ball down the field on the Bucks. And on the other side, yeah, as good as the pass attack has been for Tampa Bay, they can't run the ball. So if they get one-dimensional, maybe the Saints show up on defense this week. Give me New Orleans all day with the points here, Sia.
All right, seems to be the contrarian play for sure with the Bucks at home. Now, Proppy, you like the Saints in a different way, and I love this play from you. I'll tell you what happened with me on Friday night. I put in a couple of props, which you'll see on SportsLine if you're a SportsLine member, and one of them was going to be Chris Olave, and I went back and I checked the prop show, and I just wanted to see, hey, has somebody already put in Chris Olave? And it turns out you had, and not only that. But when I was doing it Friday night, my juice was worse. So I was like, normally I would also put in the pick, but there was just no way I was going to put in a worse pick than what you had already put in. So talk to us about Chris Olave.
Yeah, I love Chris Olave in this spot. See a potential spike week, ceiling week for Olave. We're going over 66.5 receiving yards. It's just a fantastic matchup on paper against Tampa Bay's pass funnel defense. Teams are opting to throw extremely heavily high volume against this Tampa Bay defense. They're also having a ton of success, specifically down the middle of the field in that splash zone where it's the most valuable place to rack up targets, where Chris Olave is absolutely shining. Olave's been very good this season. It hasn't been otherworldly as I think I myself and some others expected him to be, but really it's been a byproduct of having inconsistent and erratic quarterback play. Carr has been inconsistent, and then when Carr has been banged up, the quarterback play just hasn't been great. Olave has really performed well. If you look at the advanced metrics, they're extremely good. First read target rate, his air yard share, his ESPN's open score, all elite for Olave. So I love this matchup for him. Potentially the Saints could be playing from behind. Even if they're not, I expect them to be aggressive, and I expect them to test the back end of that Tampa Bay pass defense, which is very weak. They also don't double team often either. So this is just a great spot for Olave to have a potential spike week.
Yeah, I like it. And by the way, speaking of testing that Tampa secondary, Dave from the prop show has Rashid Shaheed over 30.5 receiving yards. So maybe a lot coming through the air for Derek Carr, which of course would back Danny's Saints plus 2.5 pick at -110. All right, I think we can move on. Let's go to this one. Might be pretty quick. Listen, this has some DFS appeal. The 49ers -14 at the Commanders. We thought 49.5 point total, by the way, at BetMGM. We thought this is going to be Jacoby Brissett. And for the record, Mike and I thought if it's going to be Jacoby Brissett, this has some DFS appeal because not only has he been good and seemingly better than Sam Howell, but he's locked in on the targets that we had hoped Sam Howell would lock in on. Like, for example, Terry McLaurin. But now Jacoby Brissett, he's not playing. Sam Howell is starting this game. I don't think it's really affected the line too much. Proppy, you have a pick with a San Francisco 49er receiver. I love this dude in this game specifically. Talk to us about it.
I do indeed see. Yeah, it's Brandon Ayuk. We're going over 67.5 receiving yards. I mentioned how good that matchup for Olave is versus Tampa Bay. This one is nearly equal for Ayuk against this Commanders pass defense that is absolutely dismal. They give up the most explosive pass plays in the NFL. Those are plays over 15 yards. Ayuk has been absolutely phenomenal this season. His target profile is as elite as it gets. If he had more volume, if he was in a different offense, this guy's numbers would mimic those of Tyreek Hill. He has been that efficient. He's only had double-digit targets one time this season. That should just tell you how efficient Ayuk has been this season. So, yeah, he's just in a fantastic spot. I would prefer, actually, if Jacoby Brissett was playing, because I do think he is playing better than Sam Howell is at the moment. They could potentially push the 49ers a little bit more than Sam Howell. But I do know that while this game is competitive over the first three quarters, Brock Purdy and San Francisco will be aggressive. They will test the middle and the back end of that Washington pass defense, which is absolutely dismal. Washington also double teams wide receivers at the lowest rate in the NFL. So this is just a fantastic spot for Ayuk. I also love his alt totals as well. He could go absolutely nuclear if Washington is able to push San Francisco to remain competitive. Even if they don't, this number is far closer to his floor at 67.5 yards.
Yeah, absolutely love it. By the way, quick question from Mike M in the chat on Taylor Heineke. If the line he's saying is 204.5, would you play it there as well?
Yeah, I've got a pretty significantly 25-yard edge there, so I'm comfortable with it up to probably 207, 208.5.
All right. And Mike, let me go to you. So Emory has a pick here, 49ers -13.5. From a DFS standpoint, any appeal in this one? Are you playing any Brock Purdy or like Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk stacks? Obviously, Christian McCaffrey in play as well.
Yeah, so I actually, one of my more expensive entries is a Purdy double stack where I've got Kittle and Ayuk both in the lineup with them. So I very much agree with Proppy on Ayuk. This could be the Randy Moss photo game. We could see 3 for 150 and 3. It's very, very possible. Love sprinkling his longest reception over. You can find that around 25.5 yards. I think he gets loose at least once. But for me, why I'm playing Purdy and why I would not bet the Commanders here, I would like to speculate that the 49ers want to let Purdy sling the football as much as they can here today, rebuild some of that confidence that was broken against that Ravens team before the matchup next week with the Rams and heading into the playoffs. This is a great opportunity to do it. Let everyone have a little fun. I think that's what we see here. I have a lean to the under 49.5. The computer makes the number all the way down to 45 as it's very low on the Commanders side. The only, again, issue with that is if the 49ers put up 40 themselves, there will be ample garbage time to push this over. So potentially start on the live under and grab a live, or start on the under, grab a live over, but computer does like the under 49.5 here.
Absolutely love it. All right, I think we can move on past this one. I did mention Emery's pick here, 49ers minus 13.5. Let's go to Panthers Jaguars. Not a super sexy game. We got a 37.5 point total. Jags at home, favored by 3.5. They need to start winning some games. Proppy, you have an official pick with a Bryce Young receiver. What is it?
Yeah, really the only viable receiving option for Bryce Young, and that's been Adam Thielen. I'd like him to go over 43.5 receiving yards. It's been an interesting season for Adam Thielen. Obviously looked cook over the last year and a half in Minnesota, came over to Carolina in the offseason. Been functioning as the wide receiver one in this Carolina just dreadful passing offense. Didn't get off to a great start, but really started playing well, picking it up there around the quarter point of the season. Played extremely well. Did rack up a lot of production in garbage time, but yards are yards, obviously, when we're talking about prop betting or fantasy football. Then over the last 4 or 5 weeks, we've seen the Panthers sort of shift when the coaching change happened. They really kind of made a concerted effort to get Jonathan Mingo more involved. He's a talented rookie, but that has not proven to be he's extremely raw, just not ready to produce at the moment. So Thielen has once again reclaimed that role as the primary target for Bryce Young. He has 15 targets over the last 2 weeks. I like the spot for him. He could be playing from behind. Either way, I expect him to be the focal point of this passing attack. 43 yards is just too low, and we're talking about a guy who's very likely to receive 10 to 12 targets in this game. So give me Adam Thielen over 43.5 receiving yards.
All right, Thielen over 43.5, and Dave's pick is DJ Shark over 23.5 receiving yards. Don't forget, DJ Shark, one of those guys that had a huge game. I'm chasing it a little bit in DFS because he's only 3,600. I'm not playing much of him, but DJ Shark over 23.5 receiving yards. You got to think he'll also be a focal point after how he flashed last game. All right, let's go to a very exciting game, a game where I'm surprised the line is okay. So it's 3.5 now. Okay. Cause it's been between, it's 3. Okay. Dolphins at Ravens. It's 3. It's been 4. It's been 3.5. It's been 3. There are some injuries on both sides of the ball. Certainly the Dolphins, of course, speaking Dolphins at Ravens, Dolphins have some injuries with Raheem Mostert. Jalen Waddle is out for this game. Danny, you've got a pick here that I absolutely love, but I'm almost like afraid to love it because it seems like the obvious play. And I know you're not normally on the obvious play. So talk to us about your play in Dolphins Ravens.
Yeah, that's right. See, I had some qualms when I went to go place this bet, but ultimately I couldn't ignore Ravens -3 when that number dropped to just a field goal. Lamar Jackson as just a field goal or less favorite, 26-1 against the spread for his career. We know Lamar as a dog is the spot, but when he's a short favorite, he covers as well. More than anything, guys, I'm not backing this Dolphins team when they play against top-tier competition. Tua in a road or neutral situation when he plays a team that's above 500, 2-8 straight up for his career. Tua continues to try to prove the doubters wrong. Every time he has a bad game, they turn around and he has a record-setting game with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. But without one of those options, I think the Baltimore defense can scheme a lot better against just Tyreek Hill. Of course, he's still going to get his. They can bracket him. They can do, all the schemes they have. And I think it'll be enough to contain him under this Baltimore defense. That's a top 5 unit in defensive DVOA. So is the offense. So is the special teams. They're good everywhere. And I don't know. I'm just not buying the Dolphins quite yet. They've had a cakewalk of a schedule, and maybe they prove me wrong here. But I'm going to bet that they don't, and continue to back good teams against the Dolphins. So give me the Ravens -3.
All right, before I give my prop out, which I put out on SportsLine Friday night, I'm curious, Mike, with your model, does it have an edge on the spread here, one way or the other?
It does, Sia. The biggest edge, though, is actually going to be on the Ravens money line if you're able to shop. There are a wide variety of numbers available on that Ravens money line, but you can find a minus 165 right now. Again, a lot of people may not like to play something like that. I only care about what the actual edge or my implied edge is. That implies 62%. When I look at the computer number, I have it at 67.5%. You have a 5% edge on the Ravens money line. I make the number minus 208. It was as high as minus 200 at times throughout the week. You're getting a decent price point. Sometimes you see that when the number is 3, the money line moves a little differently because of certain parlay liabilities, things like that. So I like the Ravens money line the most here at minus 165, but I do lean Ravens minus 3 as well.
All right, Danny, did you have something as well?
Lamar Jackson, 27-10 straight up as a home favorite. So Ravens money line sounding quite good. And the MVP trophy is on the table here as well. Just another good narrative for Lamar.
Yeah, I mean, that's technically on the table for Tua, I suppose, as well. If he and Tyreek, I mean, I guess it's on the table for Tyreek Hill too, now that I think about it. Let's see. I mean, this game has so many implications to the AFC, to the MVP race. Certainly one of the featured games this week, if not the featured game. Go ahead, Proppy.
Yeah, it's been an interesting. I've been paying very close attention to this MVP race. It was kind of like an MVP playoff with Dak facing off against Tua, and then obviously Tua facing against Lamar, who was against Purdy, and it was really down to those 4 here. So I agree. I think Lamar is the rightful favorite. I think I like Baltimore's side here as well, and I do think Lamar will take the MVP down today, in theory, as far as if he has a big performance.
All right, by the way, I don't know that this guy's going to have a huge performance, but big enough to hit his prop. My official play, which I put on SportsLine, it's Durham Smythe over 19.5 receiving yards. So I think really the analysis is here. Jalen Waddle is out for this game. Now, I think most people conventionally would say, okay, we'll go to Cedric Wilson, or go to Braxton Berrios, some of these second and third tier receivers. And I do think they get a few more targets, but Durham Smythe has proven to be a guy that gets more targets when a guy like Jalen Waddle is out. And he proved that last week. He caught 5 of 5 targets for over 50 yards. The week before that, which had Jalen Waddle in that game, he caught 4 of 4 targets for somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 yards. So he's one of the guys that I think will benefit, especially in the short area, from Jalen Waddle being out. And 18.5, or I should say 19.5 receiving yards. It's a pretty modest gain when you consider what this game flow is probably going to be like and who Tua is going to have to rely on outside of Tyreek Hill. Go ahead, Proppy.
Durham Smythe, 100% route participation most weeks as well. Does not come off the field, runs a route on every single Tua drop back. So you have to love that as well when you have a lack of Jalen Waddle's target share. It represents a big chunk of the passing offense.
Absolutely. And has been very efficient when the ball has been thrown to him, catching 9 of his last 9 targets. So, okay, I think we can move on. This is, I think, our last game of the 1 o'clock slate. So we have 10 in the 1 o'clock slate, and then we have 3 that we're going to talk to on the 4 o'clock, 4:05, 4:25 games here. So let's go to Titans at the Texans. Texans are favored by 5.5 at home here. It's a total of 44. This one's interesting because the Texans do have a lot of injuries in this game. With that said, you know, I kind of certainly lean towards the Texans here, but 5.5, a pretty big number. Proppy, you have a prop in this game.
Yeah, I do. I'm going to back Nico Collins here. We got the number at 63.5 receiving yards. Shout out to the maestro, Larry, who's normally here on this hour with me. He got this out at 61.5 on the site. But yeah, I obviously like it here up to probably about 65, 66.5 yards. Love the spot for Nico Collins, who's really had a fantastic breakout year. CJ Stroud is back at quarterback together. They have been ultra productive, and with Nico Collins on the field and no Tank Dell, he's really going to function as the 1A in this Houston passing attack. I like the matchup as well for Houston quite a bit against Tennessee, who has been a significant pass funnel, also very vulnerable in the back end. Nico Collins returned from an injury last week, 45% route participation. That number is going to jump up close to 80 to 90%. He'll be a full-time player in this matchup. He practiced in full all week, which was certainly a very welcome indicator there as well. So Nico Collins should be at full strength. CJ Stroud has a great matchup here against a Tennessee pass defense that has been very vulnerable. So give me Nico Collins over 63.5 receiving yards.
All right. And RJ White has the Texans -3.5. He obviously got that line in early on SportsLine. And EC has Kaimi Fairbairn over 1.5 field goals. That's at -150. I think it's time to go, unless anybody has anything on this Titans-Texans game, I think it's time to go to the Sunday late slate. Danny, did you have something?
Yeah, I was going to say, RJ got it at 3.5. That's the line. I feel like I'm late to the party now, but it's a 5.5. Texans seems like the right side. Different motivational spot. The Texans still have a chance to get in the playoffs. I know Vrabel is good as a dog, but we might see a little tank job here. They could maybe get the 14th pick or the 7th pick with a couple losses. So I won't put it past Vrabel to look to the future in this one, and for Stroud to look to the future as well, but succeed in that right.
Proppy, go ahead.
Houston is down, I believe, close to their full starting defensive line in this game, which could certainly benefit Derrick Henry from a prop standpoint today.
Absolutely. And I think that's why I think the number at 5 or 5.5 is probably a bit too long there. Okay, let's go to the 3 games at 4 o'clock. This one's at 4:05. Steelers at Seahawks. This is probably, I guess, the only game we don't have an official pick in. Mike, I'm going to go to you here because the one thing I kind of like in this game is points. I think the Steelers defense, especially in Seattle, could be vulnerable. And I do think Mason Rudolph and the running game, George Pickens, I think they can potentially move the ball against this Seattle secondary. So for me, I look at, if I'm leaning to anything, it's a Seahawks team total. It's maybe the overall total of 41. I don't know that I want to touch anything else. Does your model give any edge one way or the other here?
It does, Sia, but it likes the under in this one, actually. So if you're wanting to play over, I would not at 41. I would get the 40.5 that's available out there. Again, 41, very key number. I would lean that way. I personally would start on the under and then look to live bet the over at certain times later. If they don't score in the first 2 drives in this game, this number is going to crash. First immediately to the key number of 36.5 or 37.5, depending on where the ball is on the field. So I personally, or just simply wait if you don't want to start on the under. I think it's an okay live over at some point, but not one that I'm overly interested in. The slightest of leans to the Steelers side at 4.5. They made the number 3.5 here, but not one I'm anxious to get behind. Really, it has all the makings to me of a 20-17 game, frankly.
Fair enough. All right. And that's part of the reason we don't have an official play on that game. Proppy, go ahead.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph's performance last week was probably the best quarterback performance by a Steeler quarterback over the last 2 seasons. Potentially a little bit fluky there, but also just an indictment of how poor the quarterback play has been for Pittsburgh. Be interesting to see if he can obviously replicate that success against Seattle in a hostile environment on the road, very far from home, traveling across the country. So interesting matchup here for Pittsburgh. I do like the spot for Seattle a bit as well.
Danny, go ahead.
Yeah, the reason I stayed away from this game is contrasting angles. The one that Proppy just brought up, Mason Rudolph, he went off last week. We've seen this phenomenon of the backup quarterback, Josh Dobbs, Drew Luck, Will Levis. I mean, the list goes on. So it's sort of a one and done. Like Jake Browning, it can be a one and done a lot of the time. I'm not willing to just put my chips behind Mason Rudolph. But Tomlin as a dog, he wins it. He covers it like a 65% rate. So hard to look away from that too. All in all, it's a pass.
Yeah, I mentioned on Fantasy Football Today DFS on the Tuesday show, not the show I was on with Mike 2 weeks ago, that I thought Mason Rudolph might have been the best option even if Kenny Pickett is healthy. And I hearken back to his Oklahoma State days when he played with James Washington. The touch on the ball, on the long ball, he doesn't have a strong arm, but he's got good touch on the long ball in particular. And I think, being on the sideline for 4 years is such a huge advantage to any quarterback. So I do think that's a big advantage he has over a guy like Kenny Pickett, for example. All right, let's go to Chargers at the Broncos. By the way, I didn't mention we have picks for the Sunday night football game. We're giving those out on this show as well. So we actually have a lot of picks there. So stay tuned. I'm going to race through these 2 afternoon games. Chargers at Broncos. Broncos -3.5, 37.5 point total. This starts at 425. I've got an official play here. It's a bit contrary, but not so much to RJ's pick. RJ has the Chargers +5.5. Well, I went ahead and scooped up the Broncos at -3, put that out on SportsLine. So that's my official play. At 3.5, I don't like it as much. I still kind of like it. At 5.5, where RJ got it, I certainly don't like it. But this is one of those things where I understand Denver's pretty much played themselves out of the playoffs, but I do think Jared Stidham runs this offense a little bit better than Russell Wilson. I do think it's a bit of a shot in the arm to the offense. I think they're going to be motivated by having a quarterback that might be throwing it down the field a little bit more. Now, you have no Cortland Sutton. Mims banged up. Judy's playing. He's had an illness. So there are some issues. But I just don't, with the Broncos at home, I just don't see Easton Stick behind a banged up Eckler, who's probably not going to play a full allotment, behind no Mike Williams. Don't forget, he's not playing. Josh Palmer, he's not playing. Keenan Allen, he's not playing. I just think there's too many issues. And Easton Stick and company, they flashed last week against the Bills. It'll be a different story going into Denver. So give me the Broncos -3 in that one. And like I said, RJ's got the Chargers, which he put in much earlier in the week at +5.5. Proppy, go ahead.
I also think it's worth noting that when RJ submitted that pick, I don't think the Russell Wilson news had broken yet.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. That's good to know. All right. Well, let's move on then, because I think we go to your Kansas City Chiefs. And Proppy, you said you love a prop in this game, and I know Mike likes it too. And I know Mike is playing this guy in DFS. Bengals at the Chiefs, Chiefs -7. A lot of questions about the Chiefs, particularly on offense. Some questions about the Bengals. I don't know do we know the status of Jamar Chase yet? I think he's a game time decision. Jake Browning is certainly going to be the quarterback, but I'm not sure we know about Jamar Chase yet. Either way, Proppy, tell me about whether you know the Jamar Chase news, and tell me about the prop you like in this game.
Yeah, the last report I had read, it indicated that Jamar Chase was expected to play. I do believe that we'll test him out in pregame warmups in order to confirm that, but is expected to suit up tentatively. But yeah, my favorite prop, I know Mike likes it quite a bit as well, which certainly makes me even that much more confident, is Travis Kelce over 62.5 receiving yards. I believe the number shot up to 65, 66. I'm more than comfortable playing this one up to 70, 71.5 yards. I have a significant edge as far as my projections are concerned on Travis Kelce this week. We talk about get right spots for teams a lot. This applies to Travis Kelce in particular as far as his prop is concerned. Kelce got off to a good start this season, has really kind of struggled though over the last 5 to 6 weeks of the year. We've really just seen Kansas City's offense sputter as well, the passing offense. This one just checks every box. Playing against the Cincinnati pass defense, which is absolutely dismal. They are the worst tight end defense as far as covering opposing tight ends by a significant margin in the NFL. Getting a steep discount on Kelce as well as a result of him struggling. I really think we're going to see a concerted effort to get him the football early and often. A report came out this morning regarding the Chiefs kind of being a little too fancy with their offensive play calling and really trimming the fat on the playbook. Looking at more 20 to 30 core plays, which are obviously going to be Travis Kelce primarily as the first target or the first read for Patrick Mahomes. So I think the Chiefs are angry. The offense is ready to cook. We're going to see Patrick Mahomes just be Patrick Mahomes, and that's going to involve leaning on his number one guy, which is Travis Kelce. I expect a huge game. I told Mike and you guys and Danny and Sia pregame that I expected Kelce to potentially clear this in the first half. I stand by that. I think Travis Kelce goes for triple digits in this game, has a monster game. I also like his alt totals quite a bit, and this is my favorite prop of the week by far.
Yeah, Japan 5 says he got Kelce at 59.5 when it dropped. Gosh, I love that. And I love the number that Proppy gave out too. Mike, any follow-up, whether it be on the Chiefs or on Travis Kelce himself?
I just expect a condensed playbook from Kansas City. Expect a little more decision-making from Patrick Mahomes. I think they're going to come out highly motivated. I think they're going to have success against this Bengals defense. So love Travis Kelce today. Playing him across the board in DFS. Cheapest price point he's been in 2.5 seasons. So love this buy low spot on Travis Kelce here.
All right, Danny, did you have something on this one?
I think that Jamar Chase is going to play. The total in this game is now up to 45.5. It was at 43.5. The only reason odds makers would do that is because of an offensive weapon like Chase. I don't know if he's worth 2 points on the total. Perhaps he is. It's making me want to play the under now above this key number of 45. Mahomes, I believe in his last 15 home games, is 12-3 to the under at home. So Mahomes, very profitable home under quarterback. Maybe worth an underplay at this number, 45.5 now.
Absolutely love it. And go see Mike. Absolutely love the comment. He says, checking in just to wish all of you a happy new year. We wish you the same, of course. Thanks for the info. As always, simply enjoying this week off from the books and back to being a fan. Go Birds. go Sixers. I guess that's Proppy's shadow
Let's
account.
go.
By the way,
go.
We have, and it's probably a little too late, but we have a 7-to-1 ratio. It's always 7-to-1 when I don't mention hitting the like button. We've got almost 800 people watching. We have 124 likes. I don't know what to tell you. Like, try to remember when you jump in here to hit the like button right when you get in here instead of waiting for me to remind you. Would genuinely appreciate that. All right, let's go. Like, I think we can go to Sunday Night Football now, gentlemen. Packers at the Vikings. I've got an official play in this one. Vikings at home behind Jaren Hall of all quarterbacks. Man, what a quarterback trip we've been on in 2023 in the NFL. Vikings, again, favored by one, a 43-point total. My play is on the Vikings here. I just think this Packers defense, I kind of don't care who the quarterback is. I think I probably would have preferred Nick Mullins, but I obviously think Kevin O'Connell and company are in the best position to see if Jaren Hall can start again. Don't forget, Jaren Hall was the starter when Kirk Cousins got injured and he had a concussion. He actually looked pretty good early in the game and then sustained a concussion. Then we had the Josh Dobbs experience and then we had the Nick Mullins experience. Jaren Hall was prepared to be the starter back then, and I think he's even more prepared to be the starter right now, and that's obviously the head coach's call there, Kevin O'Connell. I'm going to respect the call, and I'm not going to respect the Green Bay defense. They're without Jair Alexander, but even when they have Jair Alexander, it's a terrible defense against the run. It's a terrible defense against the pass. I think Jaren Hall gives you this run-pass element that I think the Packers are going to have serious problems with. And on the other side of the ball, listen, this Minnesota Vikings defense, they're missing some players. They've got some injuries, but it's Jordan Love on the road on the other side. And I think when you have Brian Flores as your DC, you can bend and not break to Jordan Love and turn him over just enough, stymie him just enough to get an outright win in a game that is virtually a playoff game for these two teams. Because if you lose this game, you are definitely out. And if you win this game, you got a shot at least at making it inside the NFC. So that's my official pick. And Proppy, you have a play that kind of assists my pick, because if this guy does well, I'm probably doing well with the Vikings money line.
I would tend to agree, Sia, and I absolutely love your backing of the Vikings here. But yeah, I'm on running back Ty Chandler. I like his combination line, his rushing and receiving line, over 76.5 combined yards. Gave this out on the Friday show. I know it's ticked up a few yards. I'm still comfortable playing this one up to 82.5 combined rushing and receiving yards. I've been really impressed with Ty Chandler. I know he had the performance last week against Detroit. Detroit has a very good run defense. Didn't play well, but he received the bulk of the carries, which was certainly a good sign. And now we're playing a Packers defense that's been a significant run fennel. And as Sia mentioned, they are bad versus the run. They're bad versus the pass. Just not a good defense. And I really think Minnesota, with the rookie quarterback, with Jaren Hall under center, I think they give Ty Chandler a concentrated workload. I do think they're going to run the football quite a bit in this matchup, and they're going to have plenty of success. I also like that Ty Chandler offers a 3-down skill set, which is why I'm choosing to back his combo line. Also gives you some game script protection as well in the event that Minnesota is playing from behind. I do expect him to be involved in the short area passing game if that is the case. But yeah, I expect a lot of Ty Chandler. We know no TJ Hawkinson. Jordan Addison a bit banged up as well with a rookie quarterback. I do think we see quite a bit of Ty Chandler. Love his combination line versus a very poor Green Bay run defense.
All right, well, because it's Sunday Night Football, I got to get Mike's thoughts on this game if he has any. And of course, Danny, I got to get your thoughts on this game as well. I will point out that Emery's sports line pick is Packers +2 in this one. So he's on the other side. We can obviously both hit because I've got the money line. He's got the +2. And we know in these Packers games, listen, I've been on a Packers side where I actually erased the -1.5. I took the Packers money line. It was earlier in the season, and they won by 1 point. So like these Packers game, especially like with Jordan Love, sometimes he's either they're down early and in the fourth quarter he ends up coming back, and you have a situation where the game gets really, really close. Mike, any thoughts in this game?
Yeah, I think this one is interesting. The first thing that stands out to me is the total at 43. I like going over this number here. Look, I think both of these offenses will be able to find a little bit of success. One interesting note on Jaren Hall, he has one of the highest rushing props for a quarterback of the entire week this week. His rushing prop is the same as Josh Allen's currently sitting here today. I know some of Josh Allen's is dictated by the game script that we're projecting, but he certainly has a ton of rushing upside. Frankly, that's why he can get himself into situations where he has a concussion, but he does have some upside with his legs overall. So I think that it's a high variance situation. It's a dome, a controlled environment. And when you look at the Packers, they've been a pretty significant over team on the road. they struggle. They give up a lot of points. So I think that this one ultimately is competitive enough, and we go over this number. A 24-20 victory, 24-21 victory, either way, definitely gets us there and seems like the likely outcome here.
Danny, I also lean to the over here. Any thoughts on this Sunday night football game?
Yeah, I'm a little scared to take a side. See, I feel like you're on the right side now. I'm seeing money come in on the Packers and the line moved in the Vikings' favor. So potentially a little reverse line movement in the market there. I like Mike's analysis on the over. I might lean that way as well. You mentioned Jair Alexander is out for this game. Sia, obviously their best corner. He's suspended for this game because he butted into the coin toss and tried to enter as a captain and call. He said, "We want to play defense." And the way he phrased it nearly gave the opposing team the ball in both halves. If you phrase it incorrectly, the coach was livid. You practice this stuff. He's out for this game because of that blunder. He's not injured. He showed up to a coin toss that he was not allowed to be in. Never seen anything like it. Fascinating.
NFL 2023. Right. Go ahead, Mike.
Self-imposing a penalty. There's no requirement from the league. It's literally a self-imposed penalty while you're fighting for a playoff spot on the road with your best corner. Very, very interesting.
It's so strange. I mean, against a rookie, against Jaron Hall at quarterback, like you think Jair is probably good for like sneaking in a pick six in a crucial game like this. All right, well, let's look at our bets here. We have so many bets that we just 13 games, actually 14 games we just went through. You see mine here. I don't think we really need to speak to each of these bets. This show would sort of take too long. You see Dave's, Emery's, Danny, Propstarz, RJ, EC. Let me ask you this before we get out of here. We still have about 5 minutes. And I don't know, Prop, you might have had just something to say here. If you could pick out, I hate doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway because we have a few minutes. If you could pick out one of your bets that really jumped out to you, I'm not going to say, I don't want you to categorize it. Oh, it's my favorite. It's a lock. I don't like that language. But the one of your many bets that really jumped out at you when you first saw it, which one was it?
Travis Kelce. It was love at first sight. I had him circled, and my projection had a high output on him long before the book released the line. And I had circled this matchup against Cincinnati, just knowing how poor they are against defending tight ends, knowing we'd likely be getting a huge discount, reading the tea leaves, seeing how motivated Patrick Mahomes and this Kansas City offense is, the bulletin board material. This one really checks every single box for me. There's a reason I made it a 2-unit play on the site, which I've only done one other time this NFL season. So absolutely love Travis Kelce today.
That I didn't know. And of course, if you're a member of SportsLine, you would have known that. Can we well, actually, I was going to throw up do we still have the promo code that we can just throw up real quick, by the way? The 60% off the annual plan. Yeah, that's still valid. If you want to get these props and you like, listen, it's normally 1 unit, but when Proppy loves something, he'll throw 2 units on it, get 60% off the annual plan with promo code winners. You guys know the drill there. Head to sportsline.com/join. Type in winners as the promo code. You'll get 60% off the annual plan. Danny Brasco, of the bets that you put out, what's the one that really jumped out at you at first?
I mean, I got to stand tall on my Saints bet, right? +3 is the best bet, 2.5 going under that key number. But me and Cheesy are locked into a showdown, so I got to say Saints. And speaking of Cheesy, I just want to say as a note in 2023, thank you to the chat. Thank you to all you guys at Early Edge. This is my first year here, and it's been a fantastic year. I couldn't have received more support and kindness from everyone. It's an awesome community. All my colleagues, super smart. Just really, really appreciate being here. So thank you guys.
Very, very good message there. And I think the one that jumped out to me was probably the Bears. And again, that was one of those plays where I was like, man, it's kind of like the Ravens, which is not an official play for me. I was like, man, I like this too much. I might be on the wrong side here. Mikey talked about his model, how this line is so extremely efficient. But again, I've seen Taylor Heineke. I think Taylor Heineke is good, but I think Taylor Heineke can get himself into trouble. And at Chicago, the way this defense is playing, strip sacks, interceptions, they're all on the table. Not as much, in my opinion, with Justin Fields. So that's really why I think I liked that the most. The Durham Smythe one was probably the other one that I really liked right off the bat, even though that's such an obscure name. Ladies and gentlemen, James Valdez, he says, thanks, Brasco. You're awesome. You are awesome, Danny. All you are awesome. Mike McClure, you're awesome. Proppy, you're awesome. The Early Edge is awesome. We really appreciate you guys being in here. We know it's New Year's Eve, but you're probably watching football, so that means you're probably watching this. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to dive into 2024. We'll see you tomorrow because we have shows every day. So we'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. I believe that's when our Early Edge show is going to be. Yeah, at 10. And we'll be breaking down some college football, among other things. So join us then. Have a great, safe night tonight. Make sure there's no drinking and driving, and then make sure you make the arrangements beforehand. Stay safe. Have some fun tonight. Watch some football. Hopefully we cash our bets. On behalf of Mike McClure, Propstarz, Danny Brasco, and of course, Jake the Snake, always on the ones and twos. I am the counselor of cash. This is the Early Edge Kickoff Show, and we rest our case.